Hit the like button, subscribe. Welcome back to the Football Terrace and the Done Deal show this morning. Some managerial updates to give you on this, some really big updates from some top sources across Europe, plus a look at some of the transfer activity that is starting to hot up ahead of what will be a very interesting and busy summer. Now, first of all, Liverpool, we know there is going to be big upheaval over the course of this summer. They're working tirelessly, and they've got the deal done to bring back the likes of Michael Edwards, etc., to really help stem the tide, to really help control the club and the situation with the brilliant Jurgen Klopp leaving this summer. And, of course, recruiting the right individual players to fit the club's style of play, bringing in the right manager is going to be absolutely key. And a story here from Fabrizio Romano, which is available on the daily briefing with Caught Offside, is regarding Koopmeiners, who is a player that Liverpool fans on multiple Done Deal shows, on the Top 6 show, on Liverpool Match Reactions, they've spoken about him at length many times, a player that they are individually very keen on, that they would like to see come to Liverpool, and they're always talking, why are we not looking at him? Why have we not got it done yet? What's interesting is this story here that shows that Liverpool, from Fabrizio, that says that Liverpool have been scouting him, but here's why he believes that Juventus are currently looking like the favourites. So it does appear this is a player at this particular moment in time is falling through the fingers of Liverpool. And I want to get Liverpool fans' reactions to this. Some of you may not rate him particularly highly. Some of you may feel that actually midfield is an area that you overly need to focus on this summer. Maybe it's going to be the potential long-term replacement of Mo Salah, centre-back cover. Left-back could be an area that you may want to address as well. So I'd love to ascertain Liverpool fans' opinion on this story from Fabrizio Romano today. Now, coming out of Germany is also interesting regarding the future of Liverpool, and that surrounds the current Bayer Leverkusen manager and ex-Liverpool player, Xabi Alonso. It states here that he will join Bayern Munich rather than Liverpool if he moves anywhere this summer. So maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, the story was very much Liverpool are the front runners. Liverpool are getting their man. Liverpool are the prime destination at this particular moment in time of Alonso. But that story now appears to be changing with Bayern Munich, who we know are a juggernaut, who we know have a brilliant squad of players that just isn't being managed right by Thomas Tuchel. The story and the word in Germany, and of course, let us not beat about the bush here. Of course, there could be a level of bias because it's coming from Germany, and the Bayern press and the German press will absolutely want to try their best to control the narrative until the decision is made. But I do want to get your opinions on this. Where do you think Alonso is going to end up? And look, he's still the favourite to become the Liverpool manager, but Bayern Munich, and now with the bookmakers that I'm looking at now on Odds Checker, the favourites to sign him. So if Liverpool can't get Alonso, where do you think they should go? I'd love to get your views. I'd love to garnish this piece of content with your opinions on this, because for me, I think Alonso is a great manager in the making. With what he's done at Bayer Leverkusen, the quality that team has demonstrated, their style of play, the fact that it could be their first league title, they're destroying not just the best team in Germany, but a team that has the monopoly in that. They're doing brilliantly in Europe as well. This could be a season where they end up winning 2 or 3 trophies. They end up breaking all kinds of records. For Bayern Munich to then land him, doesn't mean he won't become the Liverpool manager in future. Doesn't mean he won't become the Real Madrid manager in future. It's not good for the rest of the German clubs if he joins Bayern Munich, because then they're going to dominate for the next 2, 3, 4 years domestically, in my opinion. But Liverpool not getting him, I'm not going to lie, as a Man United fan, I'm happy about this. I am worried about the idea, scared about the idea of him becoming the Liverpool manager, because I think he could pick up the baton from Jurgen Klopp. And even in year 1, maintain such a high level. By year 2, year 3, year 4, you could be looking at a very potent and dangerous Liverpool team to come. Moving to North London. Now, this story has triggered a lot of people. I've seen a lot of Leicester fans, a lot of Everton fans especially, fuming. And of course, FFP being the centerpiece of this argument that FFP was created to protect. I love what they call the cartel clubs. FFP here forcing the smaller clubs to sell, helping the big clubs. And it says here, Newcastle might have to sell Isak this summer to comply with FFP regulations, with long-term admirers Arsenal a possible destination. We spoke about this at length the other day. Arsenal, it still appears, when you look at many outlets, Ivan Toney's the number one target. But the likes of Gyökeres, the likes of Isak, their names are being mentioned more and more. And I think part of that is Arsenal trying to keep the narrative fairly, not muddy, but open. It helps with negotiating the right price with any of these clubs if there is a fervent belief that there are multiple targets that would suffice, that would be good enough, that would up the overall striking level at Arsenal. Now, I think Alexander Isak would be an excellent addition. The only question mark I have next to his name, really, is the injury record. And he does spend quite a bit of time out injured. But you look at his goal-scoring record, it's very, very good. And I think at Arsenal, it would be even better. If you're creating this guy gilt-edged chances, you're looking at the potential of a real potent purchase. What I do find very interesting, though, is this argument about FFP. You still get this FFP was to stop all the small clubs catching the big clubs. And City fans push this notion, which I find interesting. Because if you haven't cheated to raise your £800 million a year turnover, if you haven't cheated to become the best team in the world, if you've done that all organically, then FFP didn't stop you. That debunks that argument in a nutshell. Equally, let's look at Arsenal that are connected to this. Arsenal reduced their sales, so their purchasing power, sorry. They reduced their wage bill significantly for many years to build a new stadium, to increase their revenue, to be able to spend as they do now. Of course, the new TV deals, etc., have helped. But how are Arsenal able to keep spending now, considering they've been spending a lot for the past 3 or 4 years, is the second part of that tale. Tale is in story. Is their plan is working? Because they've made Champions League football now. They'll make it again this year, 2 years running. That means they've become closer to winning, which means more companies will throw sponsorship money at them, meaning they can re-sign, renew contracts of current players, increase their wages, therefore increasing the overall exposure at the club. They can also continue to spend in the transfer market because they're making additional money. Why are Newcastle this early, 2.5 years or so into the rebuild under the Saudi ownership, having to sell some players? Because they went big. They spent a lot of money for a club that only turns over 250 to 300 million pound. It's going to take time for them to start bringing in sponsorship deals and create revenues that match the likes of Manchester City, Chelsea, Spurs, etc. It's going to take them many, many years to get there. And they knew this at the start, Newcastle fans, because they spoke about a 10-year process. Suddenly that 10-year process has been thrown out the window because FFP has been mentioned. But the reason why they're having to sell is because they made the Champions League last year. They've invested, but they've had a terrible season. That terrible season, potentially no European money next year, let alone no Champions League money. That all combined together means your income is now going to reduce. It is harder for your sales teams and commercial teams to go out to these sponsors and say, look, we're 2 years in the Champions League. We're 2 years in major European competitions. We're improving. We're winning trophies again. You want your brand to be synonymous with winning. Sponsor Newcastle. Your progress has been slowed down because of a poor season, and you'll get back to it. But everybody has to comply with FFP, including one of the cartel clubs in Chelsea. So this notion that FFP was designed to make the smaller and what it's also going to do, by the way, it's going to lower the asking price of players, which is one of the reasons why everybody's now struggling with FFP. When the new TV deal money came in, all the smaller clubs, turnover-wise, increase their prices to sell players, which in turn increase how much it costs them to buy players. So when any of them have gone, right, we've got some money now, let's go for it, they're paying well over the odds for players, which has led to this bigger debt, which is now tripping them all up because their plan has been unsuccessful. That is all this is. It's sour grapes for failure. That's all it comes down to. But Isak to Arsenal, give me your thoughts and feelings. Moving to my beloved club, Manchester United, there's an interesting story today that I think I wanted to touch on because there's been a lot of talk in the past 24 to 48 hours about Sir Jim Ratcliffe's love of Southgate, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's admiration of our current manager. And what's been ignored in a lot of this is Omar Barada. And I've not kept completely quiet on this subject, but I don't really buy into this notion that Gareth Southgate, because he had a meeting once with Ineos and they liked him, because Dan Ashworth and him have a good working relationship, 2 + 2 makes 4, and he's going to be our next manager. I think it's too basic, it's too neat, it's too simple. But this article here from Samuel Luckhurst says that Omar Barada would be the de facto kingmaker in any decision taken over the future of Ten Hag and, of course, the new manager. So Jim Ratcliffe does not want to intervene to determine Ten Hag's fate, and intends to delegate to the football expertise of Barada. And this is why, and I saw this story, and look, you could argue that this is confirmation bias, and I understand that. People hate it when it's positive about Man United. But this has been my fervent belief. So it's interesting to see this story kind of get ignored compared to many others, that the football decision makers, the likes of Omar Barada, who have a brilliant pedigree, background, and CV, will be making the football decisions. And I can't, for the life of me, unless we get rejected by 5, 6, 7, 8 different people, see where we go from Ten Hag to a Southgate. So I honestly would tell Man United fans at this point, keep your powder dry. Don't overreact. Don't start slagging off the new ownership and attacking everything before we know any of the actual facts. Keep your powder dry. What is, according to this report coming out of Italy, a fact is that Manchester United will not seek to sign Sofyan Amrabat from Fiorentina, and the midfielder is a target of AC Milan and Juve. And I'm gutted about this. I've had my stick. I've battered myself on my own shows. I really thought this man was going to be a game changer for Manchester United. Why did I think he was going to be a game changer? Simply because I believed that I believed and I thought that the club and the manager were buying players that were going to elevate the system that we saw built last year and help take it to the next level. But what we have seen is a system that has exposed our midfield, irrespective of who's played in it this year, whether it's Cass, whether it's Amrabat, even when it's been Mainu by himself in that role, he's still been exposed by the way that the two sort of eights push forward, where our fullbacks position themselves. It's been an absolute catastrophe. And Amrabat has not looked the same player for Man United as he does for Morocco. He has not looked the same player for us as he did in Serie A for a good couple of years, when he was one of the most press-resistant players in their league, one of the most press-resistant players in Europe. The system has hurt him. And although the manager chased him all summer, there hasn't ever really been a key designated role for him. It's been another absolute mistake by the football club, another player damaged by the football club. And I'm a little sad that he isn't going to be remaining, but I get why he will not. I think we're going to be going in a new direction where a player like him isn't going to suit what the direction the club wants to go in. But it is telling that the likes of AC Milan, the likes of Juventus are the clubs circling around him. It's not as though some scrubs from the lower half of the tables or, you know, in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th tier of European football are coming in for this man. It is clubs that are in title races. It is clubs with Champions League football or Champions League aspirations that are seeking for him. And I think he'll go back to Italy. I think he'll do well out there. He hasn't really been tarnished enough by Man United. He hasn't been in long enough. If he stayed 2 or 3 more years under the way we were operating, and it could have been different. But I am a little bit gutted by this. I watched him. Obviously, everyone saw him at the World Cup and he was great. But I followed him a lot after that at Fiorentina, and he was so good. Even when you look at that final, I know they lost to West Ham, but his individual performance, and I was so excited to see that in a Man United shirt. If our system was different, if our structure was different, I think we would have got the best out of this man. Hasn't happened, and he's moving on. But there we go. Listen, everyone who's tuned in, thank you. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.